I never believed in local myths, especially ones that sound like something out of a cheap horror story. But that changed after I visited a remote village near a lake in northern Bali. It started with a campus documentary project. Me, Wira, and Andy and all final year anthropology students were assigned to document forgotten rituals in isolated Balinese communities. Our professor sent us to Desa Temenggungan, a name that doesn't even appear on Google Maps. The villagers were friendly, but cautious, especially when we asked about the temple by the lake. Just don't go there at night, said an old man we interviewed, and whatever you do, don't touch the bell. What bell? I asked. He only looked at me, then walked away without answering. Naturally, we were curious. That night, around p.m., we sneaked out with our camera gear and flashlights. The temple stood alone at the very edge of the lake, shrouded in mist. There were no lights, just the soft sound of water lapping against stone. Then we saw it, hanging silently above a crumbling stone gate, was a bronze bell. It didn't look ancient. In fact, it was strangely well preserved, smooth, polished, and yet something about it felt off. Wira laughed. This is what they were scared of. A bell? Andy hesitated. Maybe we shouldn't. But before we could argue, Wira reached up and rang it. Gong. It was loud, louder than it should have been. The sound echoed across the lake, vibrating through the trees. Then, silence. We laughed nervously and filmed some footage before heading back. Nothing happened that night. But the next morning, Wira didn't wake up. He was breathing, eyes open, but wouldn't speak, wouldn't blink. He just lay there, smiling. Wira didn't move. His eyes stayed open, staring at the ceiling, with that strange smile frozen on his face. Not a twitch, not a sound. We called his name, shook him, no response. But his body was warm. He was breathing. It wasn't sleep. It was like something had taken his mind and left his body behind. Andian was crying. This isn't normal. We need to call someone. We ran to Mr. Wayan, the man who hosted us. When we told him what happened, he went pale. Then, in a quiet voice, he asked, "Did any of you ring the bell?" I hesitated, but Andian whispered, "Wira did." Mr. Wayan didn't say anything for a moment. Then he stood up and said, "You need to follow me right now." He led us through a narrow path behind his house, toward a small storage shed. From inside, he pulled out a wooden box wrapped in black cloth. When he opened it, there were old offerings, faded photos, and a hand-drawn map of the lake. "There's a reason the bell is there," Mr. Wayan said. "It's not to call spirits, it's to keep them down." He pointed to the lake on the map, under the water. There used to be a village. Long before this one, they practiced something forbidden. When the mountain cursed them, the whole land sank, but their souls stayed. He looked at us with eyes that didn't blink. "The bell is the lock. If you ring it, they hear you." Suddenly, from the house, we heard a crash. We rushed back. Wira was gone, the mattress overturned, the window wide open, and on the floor were wet footprints leading outside into the forest toward the lake. We followed the trail of wet footprints into the forest. It was still early morning, but everything felt darker than usual. The trees were deathly quiet, not a single bird, not a single insect, just the soft squish of damp soil beneath our feet. The tracks led us back to the lake, and Wira was there, standing at the edge of the water, still barefoot, still smiling. "Andian," I whispered, "he's not Wira anymore." Mr. Wayan stepped forward. "Wira, if you can hear me, come back. You are not their vessel." But Wira slowly turned to us and spoke in a voice that wasn't his, a low echoing tone, like it came from under the lake. "The bell was rung. The seal is broken. The offering must be made." Suddenly, the water behind him began to ripple. Bubbles rose to the surface. Something was moving beneath, shapes, figures. Andian grabbed my arm. "We need to go. Now." But before we could run, Wira walked straight into the lake. He didn't stop, The water reached his chest, then his neck, then his head. Gone, not a splash, not a sound. I screamed. Mr. Wayne dropped to his knees and started chanting in Balinese. Then we saw it, a shadow rising from the center of the lake. Not a boat, not a fish, a building. A temple, submerged for who knows how long, slowly emerging from beneath the surface. The drowned village, Mr. Wayne whispered. They're coming back. The temple rose slowly from the lake, covered in moss, cracked stone, vines dangling like veins from its ancient roof. But it wasn't the structure that terrified us, it was what followed. Figures, dozens of them, walking out of the water, silent, dripping. They wore traditional Balinese clothes, but rotted and torn. Their skin was pale, some missing eyes, others with twisted limbs, but all of them smiling, the same frozen smile Wira had before he disappeared. Andean gasped. They looked like villagers. I finished. From the Sunken Village, Mr. Wayne pulled us behind a tree. Don't let them see you. They only walk when they're summoned. The bell. It opened the gate. We stayed quiet, held our breath, watched them walk up the path toward the village, our village, the one that was still alive. They're going to Temenggungan, I said. What will they do there? Mr. Wayne didn't answer. His face was pale, lips trembling. Then we heard it again. Gong, the bell. But we didn't ring it. It rang itself, and all the figures froze. Their heads slowly turned toward us, and they began to walk not toward the village, toward us. Mr. Wayne stood and pulled a small pouch from his shirt. He threw powder into the air and muttered something under his breath. The figures stopped for a second, just a second, then began screaming, a deep, guttural sound, not human. We have to get to the Pura, he said, the real Pura, the one underwater. We need to seal it again before the third bell rings. What happens if it does? Andean asked. He looked at us. Then the drowned won't walk anymore. They'll run. We ran down the slope, through the trees, past the bell that still swung gently on its own. As if something unseen was pushing it, the drowned were close behind. We didn't look back. Mr. Wayne led us to a hidden path near the northern edge of the lake, between the thick reeds. We saw it, a narrow wooden boat tied to an old stone post. He jumped in, motioning for us to follow. We didn't hesitate. The gate is at the bottom, he said while rowing. We'll reach it before the bell rings a third time. We must. I glanced back. On the shore, the drowned figures had stopped, just watching. Dozens of them, standing in a perfect line, smiling. When we reached the center of the lake, Mr. Wayne pulled out a cloth-wrapped stone and dropped it into the water. Bubbles rose. Then the surface began to glow, a soft, pale blue light forming a circle around the boat. There, he said, that's where the Pura is, underneath. We go down. What? I asked. Swim? It's too deep. No, he said. We don't swim. We surrender. Before we could ask what he meant, he took out another pouch of powder and threw it onto the glowing water. The light flared, and suddenly the boat began to sink slowly, but without filling with water, like it was being pulled down gently by unseen hands. Underwater, the world turned silent, cold, but we could breathe. I don't know how. I didn't question it, and then we saw at the Sunken Pura, black stone, covered in algae and coral, statues with missing heads, a massive sealed door with carvings of bells and faces screaming in silence. Mr. Wayne stepped forward. He took a blade from his robe and cut his palm. Blood dripped onto the seal. The bell was rung. A soul was taken. Now a soul must be returned. The door trembled. Cracks of light formed around its edges. Then we heard it. Gong, the third ring. Mr. Wayne's eyes widened. They're already here. The third bell echoed through the water like a heartbeat from another world. The seal on the temple door cracked wider, light bursting through like veins of fire. And then the door opened. From inside, shadows poured out, not swimming, not floating, crawling through the water with movements that made no sense, jerking, twisting, writhing like broken puppets. Their faces were hollow, their eyes black, their mouths open in silent screams. "They're not just spirits," Mr. Wayan said. "They are what remains when the soul is pulled too long from its body. This is what Wira is becoming." Suddenly, from behind the temple, Wira appeared but changed. His skin was gray, his smile wider than before, his pupils gone, and around his neck hung a chain with a fragment of the bell. "He's the vessel now," Andean whispered in terror. Wira raised his hand. The shadows froze, then turned toward us. Mr. Wayan shouted something in ancient Balinese and slammed both hands on the temple gate. Symbols flared across the stone. The shadows shrieked and recoiled, but Wira didn't move. He only stared at us. "I can trap them again," Mr. Wayan said, "but not without a price." "What price?" I asked. He looked at us with tired eyes. "One of us must stay behind to replace what was taken." The temple rumbled. The lake shook. The drowned above were entering the water now, swimming fast. Before we could argue, Mr. Wayan stepped into the temple. He turned to us, smiled sadly, and whispered, "Tell the village, seal the bell, and never speak of this again." He slammed the gate shut from the inside. The carvings pulsed red, then blue, then turned black. The light vanished. The temple began to sink again, this time collapsing in on itself. The water churned. Everything started to fall into darkness. We woke up gasping on the shore. No boat, no bell. The lake was still, as if nothing had happened. Wira was gone, forever, and the bell, nowhere to be found. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind is just right, I swear I can still hear it, gong,